We're thrilled to have with us today Governor Gary Herbert. Governor Gary R. Herbert took office in 2009 and is currently the nation's longest serving governor. During his time in office, he has kept a resolute focus on economic development, improving Utah's educational excellence, and under his leadership, Utah's economy has risen to a position of national as well as international success. Here's Utah's Governor Gary Herbert in a Q&A with Brandon Rodman, Weave CEO. The topic, the future of local business.
All right, everybody, we are here with the great governor of the state of Utah, Governor Herbert. Glad to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. Great to be with you.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. This is going to be fun. All right, so we're talking to business owners all across the U.S. and trying to help inspire them to be better, to perform better, to run their business better, to, every way that we can possibly help them to grow. And we thought it'd be really interesting to sit down and chat with you and talk through the successes you've seen, that you've had, and see if we can provide any advice as they approach 2020. So,
thank you. I'm honored to be here, by the way. Let me just tell you that I come from the private sector, so I've started 3 or 4 businesses of my own, all successful. And so I understand the challenges of that entrepreneurial spirit out there, the risk taker, invest your capital, take a chance. That's the free market capitalistic society that's made America great. And so I appreciate you and Weave and all those involved in helping us remember and understand why that's important for society. So I applaud those risk takers and entrepreneurs and business people out there in your audience. So maybe we can talk about things that will help us all.
Yeah, it's absolutely going to help us all. So I'd like to actually start with maybe the personal side. Tell us a little bit more about you personally. Tell us about what drives you personally, that kind of stuff.
Well, there's probably a lot of things. Everybody has a background, and I appreciate that I had good parents, a good upbringing. My father was a very hard worker. He was a milkman, but then he thought there's something better out there for him and did some different things, started his own real estate business, got involved in construction, had his own construction company. That's how I got into real estate. Okay. And he was a hard worker. We have a family slogan, in fact. He got from his father, my grandfather. I've passed on to my children and grandchildren today. It's called the 8 W's. Work will win when wishy-washy wishing won't. And that's true. Most of the problems we have in life can be solved if we'll work at it. Yep. And, an effort you put out there, and I think in the business community, people know that, taking that risk, working hard to make it happen is an important aspect of success. That's what my parents taught me. I'm married. I have a great wife. We'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary this coming July. I have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. I've kept the balance of power even in my family, and I have 17 grandchildren. That really is my center of my universe, and that's what drives me and motivates me. I want to have good opportunities to support my family. I want to have opportunities in the marketplace for my children, and particularly for my grandchildren now coming up. And what we've done here in Utah is to create a very fertile environment for business. In fact, Forbes said 6 out of the last 9 years, the #1 place in America for business is in fact Utah. Yeah. But that's what's driving me. I have good heritage pioneers that help me understand the importance of trying to find a better way to live and a better life, smoothing out the trail for those who come behind you. And as governor, that's what I'm trying to do, make a better trail for those who come after me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the difficult things about being an entrepreneur, a business owner, is always this balance between personal life and work life. Now, having 6 children, a bunch of grandkids, you're very entrepreneurial, you've done a ton. What advice would you have on how to balance? Because a business can be all-consuming if you let it.
It's true. And in my life, politics can be all-consuming. It's a 70 or 80-hour week, and it never ends. There's always something to do. So with the help of my good wife, we've set aside Sunday evenings always to have family dinner. Okay. So I live here in Utah County, on the weekends, not in the governor's mansion, but I come home Saturday night. I go to my church on Sunday, and at 5:15 p.m., all of my children who live within 20 minutes of our family home start coming to my house for dinner. They bring their children, my grandchildren. So it's a pretty big, rowdy bunch, about 25 to 30 people each week, depending on who's in town or out of town. But it allows us to connect once again every week. No matter how busy I am, how busy they are, we come together and catch up. Know what's happening in each other's lives, what we can do, questions to be answered. It's been a great tradition, and we've done it for really over 25 years. So that's something, family is important to us, and that's number one priority, and we shouldn't let our other stuff get in the way of that. So again, we're faith people. We go to church, and we think that's important to understand there's something outside of ourselves that we can look to for guidance and strength and comfort. And so that's a part of what helps our family priorities also. Doesn't mean we don't work hard. Like I say, our family slogan is work will win when wishy-washy, wishy won't. So we're hard workers. But we play hard together as a family. We get together. We worship together. Those things keep us, I think, in a balanced place in life and not get too extreme one way or the other.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get this confusion with work-life balance as meaning don't work too hard. And that's not really what it is.
No.
It's first principles, putting these things that you know are important, setting aside time for those, and then working your butt off all the rest of the time.
Most people are successful, no matter what the discipline is, they work hard. Athletes that are top of the game in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, they're all hard workers on their sport. People in technology, those entrepreneurs out there working on their trades, finding innovation, thinking outside the box, that sometimes is very hard work. It's a lot easier to just kind of go with the flow. And so those risk takers, the wealth creators out there, they work hard. Sometimes the public doesn't appreciate the hard work put in there, but we all know that the secret for success is, in fact, a commitment, a dedication, a passion, as it were, for your work.
Yeah, awesome. So another question would be, so you've been in office now since 2009, and previously you were lieutenant governor before that.
2005.
What would you, so we've had a ton of success in Utah. What would you say has really driven that?
Well, again, I think the important part from my vision for the state of Utah when I became governor, and really before that when I was lieutenant governor, is we want to empower the private sector. I'm a free market capitalist. It is the best system ever invented by man in the history of mankind. It's lifted more people out of poverty. It provides more opportunity. Again, people work hard. The results are based on merit, genius, effort. And people have been coming to America since its inception, not for guarantees, by the way, but for opportunity. This is the land of opportunity. So government sometimes gets in the way of that. But we wanted to make sure government, our phrase we adopted when I came into office was, I want government off your backs and out of your wallets. And so, yeah, well, again, I think most everybody would think that's appropriate. Some degree, we have different variations of how large government should be in our lives, Democrats, Republicans, but hopefully we're not going to embrace anything other than a free market capitalistic system, which has been so successful. Anyway, when I came into office at the depths of the Great Recession, by the way, we thought, what can we do to empower the private sector? I'm a believer in the private sector of solving most of our problems. Doesn't mean government has a role, but our role is, in fact, to keep government off your back. So we have competitive tax rates. We've lowered the taxes in the state of Utah. We've gone through regulation reform to make sure we don't have a burdensome regulation system that gets in the way of the entrepreneur and getting things done. We understand how important it is to have a skilled labor force to choose from. So education is a big component part. But then there's also the efficiency in government. Government is a monopoly. It doesn't have to compete. So in Utah, we've pushed ourselves to see what can we do to become more efficient. You and your business, you've got to get more efficient. And if you don't, you'll lose profitability, and eventually you'll lose market share, and eventually you'll lose the business. But not so with government. So even though we've been listed as one of the best managed states in America, we said, let's push ourselves. Let's see if we can find 25% more efficiency. And we've done that, which means that today we actually have fewer state employees in the state of Utah, with about 1 million people more growth since 2001 than we had in 2002. You have to go back 19 years to find a smaller number of employees in state government in Utah. That's the efficiencies we found by embracing technology, better processes, making sure that we in fact respect the taxpayer dollar and find better ways to deliver the services. And in doing so, we've done what my dad would have said, as no light old farm boy, we've created a very fertile soil for the entrepreneur to plant their entrepreneurial seeds and grow a crop. And that's happening. We have done very well. Like I say, Forbes has named us the best place in business 6 out of the last 9 years. We're number 2 now. Our labor costs have gone up because of the successes we've had here, and our unemployment rate's down at 2.4%. Our GDP growth has been remarkable. It's number 1 in the nation. Our job growth creation Department of Labor statistics, we've grown over the last decade about 37% in the private sector. The next closest competitor, second place, is 26%. I mean, they're not even in our rearview mirror. We're so far ahead. It's incredible. And we've had the last 10 years, we've had the best economic expansion growth in our state's history. And I think the next decade is going to be just as good.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, if we take a second and reflect on 2019, what are your thoughts on what kind of drove the growth, and for both the state of Utah and for us nationally? And then let's look at 2020 and try to provide some advice to some of the business owners on moving forward.
Well, I would say, again, we've had a great decade. 2019 was the culmination, so it was a great year. One of the things we've done over these last few years is worked to diversify our economy. We don't have all of our economic eggs in one basket. For example, if you're in North Dakota, which has had a very good economy, but it's all energy all the time. The Balkan fields up there, they're producing a lot of energy, and that's been a good, healthy economy. But when energy was down here a few years ago, they ended up being $1.5 billion upside down in their budget. So we've taken the tact, let's diversify. And there's an index called the Hatchman Index, which reflects diversification of the state's economies in all 50 states. 0 would be poor, 100 would be the best. And diversification means reflects the economy of the entire country. And Texas is like a very healthy economy and creates probably in literal numbers, most jobs per year of any state. They're at 76. North Dakota's at 46. I mentioned they're all energy all the time, so not much diversification. Utah's at 97.6.
Wow.
So that helps us insulate against downturns. Yeah. Again, if you don't have all your economic eggs in one basket, something could be down, but something else could be up. So when the energy was down in Utah with everybody else, everything else we had was up. Yeah. So our economy continued to grow and prosper. And like I say, our unemployment rate is 2.4%, the lowest in our history as a state. And that diversification lends us well to have a very good future outlook. In fact, Art Laffer, Ronald Reagan's former economic advisor, does a publication called Rich States, Poor States, and looks at the economic outlook of the states. And looking at Utah, he says, not only have they done good in the past and are doing good currently, but their future economic outlook is the best in America. Yeah. So what we've done with good principles, the government doesn't spend more than we take in, one of only 12 states with a AAA bond rating. We save for a rainy day. We have a robust rainy day fund if we have a downturn to help us get through that gap. We have empowered the private sector and encouraged the wealth creators. We want business people to be successful. We hope they'll make a lot of money because in doing so, they'll make other people a lot of money. And growing the economic pie is how you pay the bills. So because of that, we've been able to grow and pay the bills for education, transportation, health and human services, all the things we think government should be involved with, at the same time reducing the tax load on the taxpayer. And so right now we have the lowest tax obligation in Utah that we've had in 27 years. So the best of all worlds, growth, economically, expansion, everything's doing good. Jobs plentiful, great education systems, infrastructure. We're the fastest growing state now the last decade population-wise in America. People have discovered Utah. But we've made sure we didn't overburden the taxpayer. And by efficiency in government, we've been able to do all those good things. And we're just in a very good spot. That means looking forward, as you say, to 2020, I'm very optimistic. There's no reason why this can't continue. In fact, we don't let anybody use the R word. I won't even tell you what the R word is. But nobody can use the R word because there's no reason to create some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. We keep good principles, common sense, act like we're a business, and treat, although we know government is not a business, but we try to incorporate as many of those same principles as we can. Live within your means, don't have unreasonable debt, and provide the services that we're capable of doing, and look to the private sector to do everything else. And that's worked very good for Utah. So I expect 2020 will be just as good as 2019, and maybe better. And I think that the next decade is going to be successful too. There'll be the blips, the ups and downs, and we certainly feel the pinch of what happens in Washington, D.C., the blips that come along, and the what I call the tug of the moon on the tides of economy. But I'm very optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things that looks like you've really had is this long-term view. I think as business owners, we tend to look at tomorrow and want to, change for that. We look at this year, and you've really had this long-term view, laid this foundation, which I think is a really important lesson for business owners because we feel this pressure to do it now instead of build and build.
We're kind of a fast food society.
Yeah.
And so we do lack a little of the patience. We want it now. We want it instantaneously. And of course, we see a lot of examples of people that have grown dramatically, in just a short period of time, 10 or 20 years, and somebody's a billionaire, which is, wow, what a country. We've got great opportunities. But you're right. I think it's not just business, but certainly in politics, my business, we have a lot of short-term lookers. They look at the short-term view, which means what's my next election, as opposed to the long-term, which is what's in the best interest of the citizens that we represent in the long term. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions in the short term to ensure that the long-term outcome is going to be what is necessary for the public. Sometimes you have to make decisions which are not popular. That's hard for politicians. Tax reform, regulation reform, things that sometimes are a little bit hard to do, which are not necessarily popular, but necessary for the long-term best outcomes of the citizens.
So I think that's another really good question because you have to make these hard decisions that aren't popular and then get them through, but you've maintained a 70% approval rating. How again, back to like this idea of business owners, they've got to make difficult decisions at times. Things that their employees may not like, but they need to be done to move forward, to build that foundation. How have you dealt with that?
Well, the hardest thing we have in life, I think, to do is communication.
Yeah.
And husbands and wives, parents and children, next door neighbors, politicians and constituents, it sometimes is hard to communicate effectively. And so whoever is having to make a change or direction in this way, go this way, suppose that way, the leaders of that have got to make sure they communicate well. I have, fortunately, I surrounded myself with really good people, smarter than me, and people will challenge my own thinking. I don't want to have a lot of yes people around me. I need to have somebody challenge us so that we can think of what are the consequences of this policy or this action. And sometimes we have in politics what's called unintended consequences. Yeah. Well, you need to anticipate those if you can. And if you make a mistake, make a correction. Say, well, that didn't work, but we'll do something different. So business people have got to talk to their employers, their executive teams, and say, here's the goal, here's our vision, here's the plan to get us there, now let's take action. And part of that action is we've got to communicate so that everybody knows what we're doing. So we get everybody rowing in the same direction. We don't want everybody pulling their oars different directions. That's going to cause confusion, and we're not going to make much headway. If we get everybody to get in sync, oh, I understand, yes. then you can make some progress. When I was first inaugurated in 2009, in my inaugural address, I talked about the importance of working together, partnershiping, team effort. And I said, if we'll work together in partnership, and we have unprecedented partnerships, we will have unlimited possibilities of what we can accomplish. And that's when I set the goal. We're in the depths of the recession, but we can become, Utah, the best performing economy in the nation and a premier international business destination. And there was, a few chuckles in the back of the room. But we did it. Yeah. We did it 4 years ago, and we're doing it today. Yeah, and so you set the goal. What's the vision? Here's the goals. Here's the plan. Here's the action. Let's communicate. Let's work together. And there's no limit to what you can accomplish.
So interesting that you point that out. So our logo right here, we rolled this out about 1.5 years ago, and there's significant meaning behind this. It stands for unity and possibility. That by being unified, you can achieve a lot more, and you've clearly done that.
There's no question. I played a lot of sports when I was younger, and played basketball, baseball, football, and I played individual sports, tennis and golf. They're all fun. I really enjoyed participation. But what I learned in particular the team sports is that when I was quarterback of the football team, boy, I was grateful for a good line that could protect me and block. Grateful for running backs that could hand the ball off to, great receivers that would catch a bad pass and still make a reception, and a defense that kept the other team off the field to allow the offense to be on the field. Good coaches, cheerleaders, fans. I mean, if you think about the team concept, that's really what we're involved with the business. Nobody really does it alone. So I embrace the team concept, and I've taken the team and used that as an acronym, TEAM, together. Everyone achieves more.
I love it.
A little hokey, but it's true.
But it is true, and hokey works.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It's memorable. So, all right, now we've talked about the optimistic side of 2020, and I agree with you on that. I think 2020 is going to be an amazing year. I'm excited for it. What are some of the maybe pitfalls that you would tell people to potentially watch out for?
Well, one thing's for sure, and that is we know the competition is keen. I don't care what line of work you're in, what your business is, politics, private sector, the competition is keen. Somebody's looking to become number one. We've become number one, but we know other states want to be number one. And so we have to run just to keep up. So understand and don't take for granted the success you're having or that we're having as a state. We understand that, and so we're looking to what's the new thing, what's the better thing we could do. There's certainly room for improvement. I don't know that anybody's ever reached perfection yet. I hope we're on the right road, going in the right direction, but we're not there yet. So whatever the business is in 2020, understand there's room for improvement, find ways to embrace new technologies, new ideas, thinking outside the box, and understand the competition is keen. Secondly, 2020 is going to be a big year, just so happens, for elections. Yeah. So we're going to have elections for president. I'm not running again in Utah, so it's an opportunity for them to select my replacement as governor. That's a big deal here in the state of Utah, and maybe some other states around the country too. We have legislative races. We have local government races. We have school board races. It impacts our education system. We have bonds, people need to be involved. I'm a little disappointed around the country where we have less civic engagement than we should have. The system we have that provides us with this great opportunity to be the best we can be in a free market system is protected by those who are elected to office and those who follow the Constitution of not only our nation but of our respective states. And so I come from local government. Before I was a lieutenant governor, I was a county commissioner. It's where the rubber really meets the road. Yeah. It impacts zoning, it impacts where businesses start. So I would say for 2020, one of the things I would encourage people, get involved in the political scene. You don't have to run for office. You could if you'd like. But be involved, understand the issues, understand the candidates, and show up and vote. That will do a lot to protect our great system we have in this country that's been the best system ever devised by man. And I worry that we're getting a little bit complacent about it and not as civic-minded as we should be. So that would be my counsel for 2020. Be involved in politics.
Love it. Appreciate that. So technology. Let's talk about that a little bit and the impact you've seen it have over your career, and even what you're excited about, the new things you're seeing that you think are going to have massive impact in the future.
Well, I'm 72 years old, so I've seen a lot of change. And I remember when on my first political election in 1990, when I was elected as a county commissioner, and I spent 14 years there, and we started having what I called the brick. We actually had mobile phones.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with, you had the cord there, and you couldn't go very far. You get a longer cord so you could walk around the room. And then have a mobile phone. Wow, that was pretty impressive.
A briefcase
Yeah.
the battery.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And they had a big long antenna that came out, and then they got a little smaller, and then we had the flip phone like Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty. But the technology kept making it better and better and better. And now our iPhones that we have on the side of our hip, cameras, you can take videos, still pictures, you can modify them, you can access the internet. The things it can do are remarkable. And guess what? You still can pick it up and call somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
The communications we have. When I was in the Army, I used to have to queue up to a paid telephone with my pocket full of dimes and quarters to call my wife, Jeanette. And it would take me about a half an hour just to get up to the phone. And then the guy behind me, as soon as I got on the phone, started grousing about I'm taking too much time.
Yeah.
When I was in the Middle East with our troops over there here a few years ago, they could Skype, they could email, they could text, they could call just at any convenient time virtually and make a connection back here in America with their families. The communication, the travel, the technology. People are living longer lives. My mother-in-law, who passed away, bless her heart, she had like 7 different stents put in her heart, probably lived at least 10 or 12 years longer than she would have had if she'd been in a different generation that didn't have the technology that we have with medicine today. We live better, healthier, more productive, more comfortable lives than any time in the history of the world. And so technology has been a wonderful advancement that I've noticed. That my life has been remarkably improved because of that I've seen. Well, guess what? The next 70 years is probably going to do the same thing. And in fact, it may be escalating. It may be the graph is probably getting faster and steeper. And people like yourselves and others out there in the business community are finding a way to build a better mousetrap, find a better way to do things. And all of us as business people ought to be looking for better opportunities out there and say, what's the new thing that can make life better for people? And people, it's the old adage, it's never changed. You build a better mousetrap, people will build a pathway to your door.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody's doing. We're building better mousetraps every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. What are you most excited about with 2020?
Well, it's a new decade. I think from a standpoint of Utah, we are, as I mentioned earlier, the fastest growing area of America. The last decade, we've had per capita-wise more people move to Utah. So this new decade is going to be exciting for a lot of reasons. For us in Utah, a lot of things on the horizon for new business opportunities. A lot of businesses coming to relocate in Utah or expand their operations. We've been named by the USOC as the America's choice for the next Winter Olympics, which probably be around 2030 or 2034. So that's an exciting thing for us to build to when you host the world. We did it in 2002 very successfully. I think we can do it again. So a lot of great things that are happening, but there are challenges out there. Environmental issues, what do we do about the air quality as we get more congestion here in Utah and more people moving in? Our population is going to double in the next probably 30, 35 years from 3.2 million to 6 million. And that's a dramatic change for us. We've got to see how do we accommodate that. The growth factor is probably my number one biggest issue. How do I accommodate that without having a diminution of quality of life? So if there's one issue that kind of keeps me awake for the next decade, it's growth. But I'm kind of Pollyannish optimistic. I just think there's so many opportunities out there of good things to happen, particularly if we work together and communicate and help each other out. We're going to be very, very successful as a state and as a country.
That's awesome. I love the optimism and everything here. So maybe as we wrap up here, what would be maybe some parting advice you would provide to the entrepreneurs, the business owners out there that are grinding it out every single day, running their businesses?
Well, good for you. The fact that you're grinding it out is important. The backbone of the economy of America is small business. And that, depending on how you define that, 500 or fewer employees, 50 or fewer employees. But you can't be a large business if you're not first a small business. So we need to make sure that we work in this country going forward for the next generation to provide opportunities for small business to be started and to thrive and have a successful opportunity. It's like the garden. I talked about my father. We've created a very fertile environment, the fertile soil. And if you have a good fertile soil and if you fertilize it, you water it and weed it, you're going to have a crop. That means commitment, dedication, day by day by day. And sometimes it's a struggle. And we see a lot of people struggle for 10 years, and all of a sudden it takes off. And the rewards for your hard work is the success you'll see. So we need to keep grinding, keep doing the things we've done in the past. Secondly, do not rest on your laurels. There's nothing that gets wilted faster than laurels that have been rested upon. And so we've had great success in Utah this last decade, the best in our history. But we should understand we got to keep moving forward. We can't sit back. It doesn't end. It's a never-ending quest. And so don't rest on your laurels. Look for new opportunities out there. Be civically engaged. Politics does have an impact. And I can tell you, working with all the governors in the country, I look around at where we have success, where business is struggling, policies get in the way, zoning laws, overtaxation, overregulation, not responsive to the private sector, taking things for granted. So get involved so that the people you elect represent the business community to say, we believe in free markets. We believe in competition. We want to make sure that the entrepreneur, the risk taker, the wealth creator has an opportunity to do what they do best. And so that's what we should be looking at 2020 and beyond. And that's probably a never-ending quest also, because elections come every couple of years, and one form or another, and we need to make sure we elect people that represent our Constitution and the free market capitalistic principles that's made America great.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, this has been super educational for me, and I hope it's been educational for all the business owners out there. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon. Great to be here. Good luck, everybody.